Did you enjoy the Frankie Ford show? Let's do it again. Last night there was a lot of thank yous I didn't get to do because we were running behind schedule and things kept going at a fast pace. But I want to thank Bonnie Boyd and Fred and Janet Jones. They did a lot of work last night. Of course, Kathy Hildreth, I don't think she's here. And of course, Tommy Hildreth, I didn't get to point out, but you know, he was the guy that was doing the lights up there. I don't know if many of you saw that. And I forgot to mention that last night. Also, I want to thank Dottie. I don't think Dottie's here today, though. She helped us with some microphone equipment that we needed very badly. And wasn't it great to see Johnny Meeks up here with a full band? I mean, we're not used to that. You know, we kind of take that for granted with Johnny, but when he's with a full band, man, he's rocking. That was great to see him here last night with the full band. I also want to thank Angel Tompkins for doing the charity for the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. She was doing the twist and went around to everybody trying to collect money, and we did collect the goal that we wanted, which was $500. So I appreciate that from her. Also, there's one guy that last night's show wouldn't have happened because of a lot of things going on, and that's Jerry. Come here. This man here, you don't know all the stuff behind the scenes, but without this guy last night here, the show wouldn't have gone on. This guy was incredible last night, did a lot of work. Give him a hand. You don't believe how much this guy did last night. It's because of him we had the band and so many other things that happened here last night. So he really came through last night for us. And also, if you want to see Johnny Meeks will be playing here tonight in the dealer's room, I believe at 7:30. Is that right, James? 7:30? And 7:30 till about 4 in the morning. There you go. So he'll be in the dealer's room tonight. Him and Jerry both will be there. Also, I think we have a couple of birthdays, and we're going to go with Mr. Sasser, which is my friend, Bill Sasser, who is always here every year. We can depend on him. He's a good man and a good friend. Happy birthday, Bill. And another birthday is this lady right over here. She's 22 years old today. Sue Gossard, right there. Stand up, Sue. You know, Sue's the one that wrote the book, the biography of Audie Murphy, and many other things. And happy birthday, Sue. Thank you for being here. We can sing to them. Okay, Bill, Sue, you want to sing after you get up here? Okay, hold on that thought. Okay, so let's start the panel. We'll introduce everyone. First up is someone I think all of you love. I mean, she's been entertaining people for years. Her comedy on Laugh-In, many TV shows, working with Dean Martin. I mean, on and on the list goes. And last night, what a treat that was that she did for us last night, her and Frankie. Please welcome Miss Ruth Buzzi.
Oh, wow.
If you can make your way down here, Ruth.
Okay. We scared off everybody. Where did everybody go?
They'll be coming in as soon as they know we're up here. There you go. And the next person is her partner in crime of last night. These two together or something. But this guy I have known since the early 70s when I was doing an Oldie But Goodie show at a radio station in St. Louis, Missouri. And I met him and his manager, Ken Keene. And since then, I mean, we have traveled on a cruise in Chicago, LA, Philadelphia, Grand Ole Opry. I'm telling you. But he's a good friend, and as you well know, a hell of an entertainer. Please welcome the legendary Mr. Frankie Ford.
I sang it yesterday. I sang Campionato di Voglia, Campionato di Voglia. That's happy birthday in Italian.
And the next lady is someone that I've known for a few years, and I consider a dear friend. You know her as Sissy from Family Affair. She's done cartoon voices, voiceover work, still very active in acting. Please welcome Miss Kathy Garver. And this next very attractive lady, you know her from Battlestar Galactica and many other TV performances on Murder, She Wrote, Fall Guy, many, many TV shows. Please welcome Anne Lockhart. And our next guest, I think, is still at his table. David Macklin, where are you? David, are you here?
David, vente cá.
I don't know if he's at his table or he's upstairs. Okay, he's not at his table, so when he comes down, I see him outside for some reason. I just saw him out in the parking lot. So when he comes back in, we'll introduce him.
He's in the trunk of his car.
So let's start with, I don't know how many people, everybody who saw the show last night, I want everybody to know that Frankie and Ruth, they rehearsed this song that they did, but, Ruth was so generous to do this for us last night. She didn't have to, and she wanted to entertain everyone, and she did. And thank you so much, Ruth, for adding that special thing last night.
Oh, you're welcome. You know what happened? They very nicely called me and asked me, this was how many weeks ago? Several weeks ago.
Yeah,
Several
about a month or
weeks
two.
ago, and asked if I would do this song, which is on the CD, which you have to buy the CD. I'm not on the CD. I'm not on the CD.
No, but you didn't ask.
So it's another woman there. But
I
anyway, he said that I know that he expected me most likely to do my character, Gladys.
No.
No?
No, you told me. I'm so loud. Who cares? No, but
I told you
you're
what.
all healed.
Done like a good Catholic boy grown up.
I know incense from holy water. Oh, that was incense, not incest.
No, you never incense anyone.
No, but thank you. I was a very good boy last night. As soon as my bed was empty, I went right to sleep. You believe that? We had a water bed. My ex-wife called it the Dead Sea. I'm so old, I knew the Dead Sea, but it was only sick. No, but I asked this wonderful lady, and I'm going to tell you, talent you can erase, which is obvious. She's a wonderful, lovely lady. And I want to thank her. I've never seen I thought it was a Tyson fight, and I had a piece of ear in my mouth. There were so many cameras out here, sweetie. And you told me about Gladys. Want a gold medal? And so we didn't do that, but I thought it was absolutely. And some of the packing stuff, those annoying little styrofoam things.
They call it popcorn.
Popcorn?
My 10-year-old likes to step on him.
No
Wake him up.
wonder I didn't digest that stuff.
No, but what happened was when he said, would you do the song for me, I figured, well, he must want Gladys. But I thought, no, it's not right
No.
for that because we talk about pink hair rollers and everything.
Yeah.
So I said to him, trust me, I'll think of of a funny look.
I trusted
So
it.
I got that whole outfit that you saw last night. I put it together 6 weeks ago or something, and I asked Tommy for the address, and I put it in a box, just threw it together, and thought, well, and that's what I got into.
But the
He had fun.
with child number, isn't that nice?
Yes.
I remember on television you couldn't say pregnant. You could be it, but you couldn't say it. That was the popcorn in a plastic bag that ingeniously this genius woman put together and tied it on a
I
belt.
put it in a hand towel, put the popcorn in a hand towel, and then I safety pinned all the top, and then I safety pinned it onto a belt, and that's what you saw.
Now, wouldn't it be that simple if that's the way it was?
I'd have a lot more
And
kids than one.
she didn't have 9 months of carrying charges.
And all the time you were in bed, you missed this whole incredible evening.
Life of the party. I went upstairs, made
She
a couple
didn't-
phone calls, and fell asleep with all my clothes on. Woke up at 11 o'clock, fully dressed with my boots on, and I'd missed the whole darn thing.
Missed the whole darn thing.
See that?
Yeah.
Well, I still have a broken finger. Thanks, Ruth.
Do you feel out of control?
No, go ahead.
Hit it.
The voice is gone, so take it, you know. Did David Macklin come in yet? David Macklin? He's still not, okay. All right, do we have any questions out there yet? Any questions? Everybody still shy? Everybody's still shy. Oh, there we go,
Here we have
Jerry.
a question.
A
Good.
question. How is Sebastian Cabot to work with? Fabulous. It was very interesting. Sebastian Cabot played Mr. French on my TV series Family Affair, and along with Brian Keith, who played Uncle Bill. Well, Sebastian Cabot was an ultimate professional. He learned every lines on the set. He would be looking at them. Brian, you would give him the script right before the scene. He says, "Oh, is this what we're supposed to do today? Okay." And then the scene would come and Brian would say, "Okay, come here, sister." I said, "Okay." And Sebastian would say, "Yes, yes, Uncle Bill. Yes, Mr. Davis." So it was a big difference. Oh, but I never lost my earring there. That was one thing. And if I did, Sebastian would retrieve it. But he was wonderful. He was just an ultimate professional. Thanks.
What was the shooting schedule like?
The shooting schedule was very strange because the producer of our show, Don Feddersen, had this wonderful idea in the 60s to take movie stars and have them be in TV. To television, what is this new media? I mean, we're not going to do this. So the offer that he could not refuse is to give, like Fred McMurray that did My Three Sons, 28 days of shooting total. And then he'd be done, and he could go and do as many movies as he would like. He offered the same thing to Glenn Ford, and Glenn said, "No, I think I'd rather, stay in the movies for Family Affair." But Brian thought this was a grand idea. Plus, he got part of the show. So we would shoot all the scenes that Brian Keith was in for, like, welcome to our
Here's
show.
David Macklin. Give him a hand. David Macklin.
It's the late David.
What time is it here?
It's a different time, that's why.
I've got
Are you in
10
a different time zone, darling?
Twilight Zone.
I've got 10 after 12. What is it? I was told this thing went on at 1.
Oh, well, so we would shoot all the scenes that Brian was in at the very beginning, and then we would pick up all our scenes. It was a horror story for the wardrobe person who would have to keep in mind what everybody wore and match the scenes. So we would be shooting scenes from 4 different shows in one day, and the hair was never the same. And one time I forgot a locket that we had to just go out and buy one, and if you look really closely at some of these things, well, that doesn't match. But yeah, so it was a very interesting schedule, not usually the way one would shoot at all, but lots of fun.
Okay, more questions? Any questions? People are shy out there today.
Well, how about if we ask you guys questions?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a good idea.
I'd like to do a follow-up on that. I did Three Sons, and Fred McMurray would do all of his shows in about 3 weeks or so, and they would intercut everything else, I did get to do young Steve, where I played his character younger, but nobody ever saw Fred McMurray.
No.
He showed up, did all of his stuff for the whole season, and then, went out and played golf.
David, do you have your mic turned on?
I know, he's got his.
Say what?
You have your mic turned on?
There's a question in the back.
Do I have my mic turned on? Is it my mic turned on? Are you lonesome tonight?
Who's the most famous person that we've all worked with?
That impressed you, yeah.
That impressed you.
Okay, so not the most famous who was a real
Nixon.
jerk.
Well, yeah, we can go there. We
Just
can
the
go
most
there.
famous,
That
impressive
too, Eddie.
person.
No, do that one too.
The list is so long.
Gossip, gossip. This is good. Go ahead, do gossip.
We worked with them all. Yeah, it sounded like it was on. You start, David. Go ahead.
DJ Paul.
Okay.
Wait a second.
I got 3.
No, you can only have one.
No, I have 3. Okay.
Take a top one.
Because I can't
All
pick one out of these 3 that I worked with that like were really, really famous and really cool and really impressed me, okay? Joan Crawford, I played her daughter in the last piece of film she ever did. Fred Astaire and Lillian Gish. Those were my 3.
And I gotta add Loretta Young. Loretta Young.
Did you like Loretta Young?
She was beautiful.
Yes.
All you had to do was look in her eyes, and if you had to laugh, you could laugh. If you had to cry, you could cry. It was so beautiful. She was incredible.
How about you, Frankie?
Well, I think the greatest experience I've had, of course, Dick Clark.
Dick Clark?
Yeah,
Is that Dick Clark?
Dick Clark was okay too.
what do you mean, okay? He wrote a check and the bank bounced. He bought his dog a boy. Most recently, my darling other half. But I had an experience with Liz Taylor. She was on the road with, the Little Foxes. And Liz is quite a lady. And we were having dinner one evening at a place called The Church. It was an old church converted into a restaurant. And she had the entire banquet room, maybe 50 people. Everything from the Dom Perignon on down.
Did you have chili?
Thank you. She had chili dogs too, if you want one. Step into the back. And so the owners come in and she's picking up the check. And the owners come in and said, Miss Taylor, with a professional photographer, might we take a picture of you to hang in our restaurant? She says, yes, darling, if you pick up the check. My kind of woman.
She was always so poverty-stricken, I know.
I know. She
was just so poor.
Can you name all of her names? Elizabeth, Taylor,
Wilding?
no.
Fisher.
Wait a minute, in order.
But this is like naming the 7 dwarfs.
Taylor. No.
Not what I heard. Eddie Fisher
Hilton.
was
Hilton.
Wilder.
Burton
Fisher.
twice.
Burton, Warner, Fortinsky, and a partridge.
He should get a prize for that, Tim.
I think so.
You get an autographed photo from Angel.
Michael Todd.
Todd.
Oh,
Ooh,
God.
Todd.
Yeah, I
Okay, you
missed
get
it.
a free gift, too.
That's better than, people can't name the 7 dwarfs, but you
Oh,
can
I
name
can.
all of
Can
Elizabeth
anybody-
I'm the eighth dwarf, horny.
Can anybody tell
No,
me
I
what
bought the
Tadeo
little
is?
underpants
Do you remember
at Disney
Tadeo?
World with all the dwarfs on them.
Tadeo.
Tadeo,
Yes,
yes.
Tadeo, around the world in 80 days.
It was a widescreen process.
Yes.
That
It's my ex-wife.
What was
Widescreen.
different? Does anybody know?
David?
It's not as wide anymore.
Not as wide.
David, you need to turn the
It's
mic
now
on.
a sound studio in LA.
There you go. There should be a switch there at the bottom.
And when you get to you,
We get to be, oh, well, with me, in answer to that question, all you have to do is buy the Laugh-In tapes and the Dean Martin roast, and you'll see all the incredible people that I worked with. And especially now, the Dean Martin roast, and I wish I was getting a commission from these things.
A little residual.
But we're not getting a cent. But the people on the Dean Martin roast, and there's so many that have passed on, that's really becoming a very, very important thing. Very wonderful tape.
what about I love the thing with Betty Davis on Laugh-In. When I did Regina Gibbons, and I did them all, and now it's come to this.
Oh,
I mean,
I was going to say,
I saw Bet's one-woman show. And of course, she just comes out, there's a Chippendale wingback chair, Tiffany lamp, table, crystal cigarette box, and a cigarette lighter. She comes on, and no announcement, nothing. She just shows up, sits down, lights a cigarette, and she says, "What a dump."
Oh, yes.
And she said, of course, I've never said that in my life. I said in double indemnity, isn't this a dump? She said, but some drag queen in England changed it to what a dump. So she's going through, they open the screen, and they doing all of this, and someone brought up Joan Crawford. All of a sudden, the famous picture of Joan Crawford comes on the screen, and Bette goes, "Joan Crawford, dead, you know." Pity.
She was a really wonderful lady, and if I may, I have I hope it's a quick story on Betty Davis. She, years ago, I was in a review at Julius Monk's Plaza 9, and if you did reviews in New York City way back then, you weren't a review person unless you got to work with the Julius Monk at the Plaza Hotel. And it happened that he was friendly with Betty Davis's lawyer. And Betty Davis's lawyer went to Julius and said, "It's going to be Betty Davis's birthday in a few months. And do you think we could do something special for her?" And Julius asked all of us, there were about 8 of us in the cast. He said, "If I have the writers write a show for her," and Julius Monk always had us do everything in, the men always had to be in tuxedos and the women had to be in black gowns. Your hair had to be, if it was long enough, in an upsweep, very elegant. Comedy, he said, no costumes, like forget last night. He would not have had that on his stage. We would have had to done that in a tux and a gown. But that's okay, just to show.
I'm not wearing that girdle.
So we think, you're kidding, we'll meet Betty Davis? We said, sure. So he had the writers write these things. And we read everything. We did it, each one was behind a podium, and she came in on a Sunday afternoon. There was no other audience, and we did this whole show for her, and she was the most wonderful audience. You know what I mean? She just screamed and laughed. She made us feel great. And this was where it was really special. When the thing was over, she said, "Oh, that was so wonderful. Would you do it again?" I mean, and we did it again because we knew she really meant it. She was just a great actress.
And Ruthie,
we weren't that good, you know what I mean?
Ruthie?
But isn't that something? I think about Betty Davis.
That would have been my favorite actress that I'd
She
ever
loved her
worked
crews
with.
also. I mean, the people that she worked with, she said that the most friends that she had in the whole business were in the crew. The people that she worked with, she said they were the nicest people in the world as long as you cooperated and appreciated what they did.
You know, I found out through the years, that's when you can really tell what a performer is really like.
That's the secret.
Where they're from, how they treat the crew.
Right.
Because there are performers that you love, and I won't drop any names,
That is the
that
secret.
they are like this.
That is really the secret.
Yeah.
If you get along with the cinematographer, the grips, the gaffer, you get your eye light, you know? You go to the gaffer and you say, "Could I have a night light?" Boom, you get one. If not, Henry Fonda never worked without an eye light. Inky dink is what he called it. Boom, right into his blue eyes,
Betty Davis would have been the best person and most famous that I would have worked with, but I was doing a radio series called Whispering Streets, and she was the narrator, and I was so excited. I was 10 years old, and I said, "We're going to meet Betty Davis." And I went there, and she did all of her parts in New York. It was all ready, all re-recorded. So I thought, well, this is a disappointment. So I'd have to say the best person that I ever worked with, most famous and most awe-inspiring had to have been Charlton Heston and Cecil B. DeMille. And that's when I first started in 10 Commandments. And I have to tell you this quick story of Cecil B. DeMille, and this is where this story originated. Because one of the scenes I was in was the closing of the Red Sea. Have any of you seen 10 Commandments?
How many times?
How many times, right? It's on every
I was waiting
Easter.
for the sixth one.
No, which one haven't you broken? No, just
Were you young enough to work?
no, it was actually my older sister. I was not young enough to work. But so my older sister told me this story. And we were at Paramount, and they had set up along the catwalks all of the water in the troughs that were supposed to descend, and that would be the closing of the Red Sea. Well, Cecil B. DeMille, I mean, he has to get this scene. He has like all these camels that are going to go walk through the village. My part, had just spoken with Moses, and I was supposed to descend this paper mache mountain into Nina Foch's arms to be protected. And so he says, I have to get 3 cameras to capture all of this. The sea closing, the camels going, the people moving, tons and tons of extras. So he set up one to get the master shot of the whole thing, another that was getting Moses with everything behind, and then he put one way back up on the catwalk. You know, that was his prayer one. That would, everything else failed, he got that one. So everything is set, action, and the camels go, I go, the water descends, and he says, perfect, cut. And he says, number one, how was it for you? And he said, Mr. DeMille, I am so sorry, a camel went right in front of the lens and we missed the shot.
This is really a true story.
I swear to God, this is a true story.
This is the true story.
This is a
famous true story.
This is a true story. I was there, as what Edward R. Moore, whoever said that.
Told me this. This is incredible.
I am telling you this. And the second, he says, oh, camera number 2. He says, how was it for you? He says, Mr. DeMille, I am so sorry. Water splashed all over my camera. I didn't get the shot. He's thinking, oh my God. He says, I've lost all this. I've lost the time, the money. Then he remembered the little cameraman way back up in the catwalk. He said, oh, thank God. And he says, camera number 3, how was it for you? And he says, ready when you are, CB.
Ready when you are, CB.
I swear it's a true story. So it was Charlton Heston and Cecil. I was there.
Okay, we have any questions out there? Still, yes, Sue. Sue has a question. Question for David. David, we have a question for you.
Yes, what is that?
Working with Audie Murphy.
Working with Audie Murphy? That was an experience.
David, you need to turn the mic on.
My mic
There you go.
There we go. Audie was very quiet, but very professional, but had a real kind of wicked sense of humor. The fact is that he was, at that time and through his whole life, was suffering from post-traumatic shock syndrome. He would wake up in the morning and shoot alarm clocks. But there's also Doug McClure tried to play a trick on him one time. Put a scorpion on his bed, snuck in his room. Bam! Audie took out his .45, almost shut his. But he was there as an actor. There was so much going on in his eyes that when you were working with him, I had a death scene with him, and he held me in his arms, and I looked into his eyes, and I just totally broke up. Those pellucid blue eyes, that depth of intelligence and suffering that he went through, it was incredible. It was he'd come up, we'd be riding, he says, Macklin, you ride like a girl. I said, okay, Audie, give me some points. He says, hell no, you make me look better. He was a remarkable guy and, gave so much. Just incredible what he went through. He started out very, very poor. I mean, they ate gravel, to fill their guts. He said there's a quote that he said that he was never had a happy day in his life. And I can understand that because I think the guy knew that how can you be completely happy when you know what's going on around the whole world at any time. And he gave his best. And he also said, you know, I'm alive. There were so many those other guys are dead, and nobody heard about them, and nobody, you know, knows them. I'm alive, I'm famous, but those other people did just as much. And I have a lot of respect for the guy.
Okay. I wanted to ask Ann a question. I hope you don't mind talking about it, but I mean, acting goes back a long way with your family history. And if you care to talk about how far it goes back.
You want the pedigree? That's what you need
there you
here?
Go.
Well, this will take like the rest of this panel. I've got like, yeah, it was wonderful, guys. I have a whole lot of relatives that are in this business, which I guess is just proof that nepotism is a wonderful thing. In my family, I am the fourth generation. My great-grandfather, John Coates Lockhart, was on the stage. My grandfather, Gene Lockhart, made a whole lot of movies and was also on the stage as well. My grandmother, Kathleen Lockhart, did a lot of stage. She did films with my grandpa. In fact, I'll tell you a really cool story really quickly about my grandma and grandpa and how they met. They were both cast as the leads in an industrial show. This inventor had this product, and in those days industrial shows were traveling shows that would go, you know, all over the country promoting these products. And they needed a man who could sing and dance and act in the sketches and play the piano, and my grandfather, Gene Lockhart, was hired as the male lead in this review. And my grandmother, Kathleen Arthur, was hired as the female lead, and before they at the time of their first rehearsal, before they went out on tour, this guy whose product they were going to be promoting had wanted to meet them and had a meeting at his office, which was in Menlo Park, New Jersey, and the product they were promoting was the home phonograph, and the man who introduced my grandparents was Thomas Alva Edison.
Oh, that's a great story.
Isn't that cool? And that was in 1919, and they started this industrial tour going all the way up the East Coast, and then they got to Toronto area of Canada and started working their way west, and when they got to Banff, Lake Louise, my grandfather proposed.
Oh.
Isn't that romantic?
This is a good screenplay.
And it is. Yeah. And this took place in the month of June. They were married a year later in the month of June, and then this girl came along, so guess what they named her?
So
June? That's how come my mom
May.
got named June.
I missed the cue.
Ask me how I almost got killed.
So that's my mom's side of the family, although we do have actually a distant cousin who is also in show business, and she's an actress named Lois Maxwell, and she's Miss Moneypenny in all the James Bond movies. She's a distant cousin of ours. And then my husband's family, this is like, you know, I should just like do a genealogical printout for y'all. My husband, who passed away, but his name was Adam Taylor, and his father is Buck Taylor, who played Neeley on Gunsmoke for many years, and my grandpa-in-law was Dub Taylor. My mother-in-law is an actress named Judy Nugent, who was a Mouseketeer, and she was a regular on the Annette Show. She was a child actress in Magnificent Obsession and a ton of other movies with Gene Autry and Roy Rogers, and my kids have been on stage with me, and I don't really think anybody in our family is going to go into freight forwarding anytime soon. So, so that's the pedigree, okay?
I hope they're all getting residuals. You know. That is incredible. Dub Taylor, one of the greatest, funny, wonderful guy.
And I think your grandfather, Gene, is probably in two of the most famous Christmas movies ever made. Well, first of all, Christmas Carol, MGM's version of Christmas Carol, Gene and Kathleen and June are all three in that film.
And Anne does she does Christmas Carol and in Thousand Oaks at the stage there. And I saw her last year. She was absolutely fabulous. And her son Zane was in it. And Walter Koenig played...
Walter Koenig is our Scrooge.
It's Scrooge. This is an alien Scrooge from Star Wars.
My daughter Carly plays my daughter Belinda Cratchit. So the performance Kathy came, Carly wasn't doing that show. But it's pretty cool to have 4 generations of the Lockhart family doing A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Also,
A big Christmas present to all the audiences.
also remember the famous film Miracle on 34th Street. Gene Lockhart played the judge in that film. So 2 of the most famous Christmas movies ever made. With the Lockhart.
You know, most people, when their grandparents go, especially people at our age, there was no VCRs, home videos. And most people, when your grandparents are gone, your grandparents are gone. And I get to see my grandma carrying in a Christmas pudding every single Christmas. And I sit there and just weep like a baby. Oh, look at my beautiful grandma. And I've been able to say to my children, look, that's your great-grandma and your great-grandpa. And also the same with Dub. I've been able to say, that's your great-grandpa, Dub. So it's really unique, and I'm very, very lucky.
Okay, questions? Any questions out there? No questions. Oh, a question over, okay. The question is for any chance of Ruth and Lily Tomlin ever working again?
Well, in the past year and a half, I'd say, I've helped her in a couple of projects just to tie them up. Like one Sunday, my husband and I went to a brunch. And while I was at the brunch, I had that little silly pager I wear. I read the number, I didn't recognize it, called it, and it was Lily Tomlin's manager. And she says, Lily's in a jam. Lily was doing making a cassette for raising money for a hospital in the middle of Hollywood, and she couldn't figure out how to end it. So she said she wants you, Ruth, to come as Gladys, and she'll do her street lady, and she doesn't know what you're going to do or what you're going to say, but she says, but just, oh, please come down. So I said, you got it. So I left the luncheon, and I went and got in that outfit, went there, and we made up something, and it was hysterically funny, and it was great.
And you hit
Can I say that it was great?
Absolutely.
It was funny.
You
I
got
mean,
all
it
that.
was funny, And I did
Who did
something
you
like that.
hit with the
A couple, another thing
Who
too.
did you wipe out with
But
the
she's doing her own show. She does. She has her own show, which is wonderful on the road.
She's also in West Wing, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
she's in West Wing.
But the question
and I'm in
is, Ruth,
Passions.
Ruth,
Passions.
when you were there, who did you hit with a bag?
While I was where?
Huh?
While I was where?
Were you with the
Oh, I hit her.
You hit her.
Oh yeah. It was a
Bam,
crazy
bam,
thing.
bam,
It's hard to explain. It's no good unless you know the whole build-up. It doesn't work. But it worked. Trust me.
I think
She's
we
a
got
good lady. She's a good friend.
a follow-up. I didn't.
My most precious dog that I had died like 3 months ago, and I'm still grieving. And I have a 12-year-old son. And right after, he says, "Mommy, I'll get you another Cocker Spaniel." And I said, "Oh, well, sweetie, that's okay. Give Mommy time to grieve." But come this Christmas, I think that something will be under the Christmas tree. And then I have this pet. I have had this thing for 5 years, and I cannot believe why it is still with us. It is a baby aqua frog, and it lives in this little plexiglass environment, and I give it one little tiny pellet of food a day. But you have to give it one little tiny pellet of food a day, or it won't live. So my son has been giving him this little tiny bit of food. But I think I'm going to write a book about Herbie the Lonesome Frog, because I try and move him to different environments around the house, and he seems to like that, and he jumps. And I've never seen a creature get in more positions in my life. He must have 1 million positions that he can put this little frog body into. So he's an immense delight to hold them, and he is this big. So those are my pets. Do you have pets, Frankie? Well, wait a minute. We have to be careful about that.
That's a loaded question.
Well, we word this, Frankie.
Yes, but she has
I
two
have a Shih
legs.
Tzu. I have a Shih Tzu
Ah.
that wakes me up at sunrise, no matter what time of year, starts whining. I cannot sleep past sunrise. It's a Shih Tzu, 15-year-old Shih Tzu. Wonderful little thing called Sybil, and I miss it.
So you're on.
Frankie?
It's Frankie's turn.
Oh, it's me?
That's great.
No, I have no pets. I'm on the road too much. It would be, I would love it, but be unkind to the animal, whichever. Because I used to get home off the road for about a week, and I'd go in and get 2 aspirin and wake up my wife, and I said, here's your aspirin. And she said, I don't have a headache. And I said, all right.
Now, this is a little lengthy, but it's a true animal story. Are you ready? Is it okay?
We're ready.
Just if you get bored, it'll just say, Ruth, shut up. Okay, all right, okay. Okay, I was into cats, okay? And I had a couple of wonderful Himalayan cats, and I was crazy about them. And it was my birthday, and Lucy Arnaz came and brought me another Himalayan cat. And when we brought that in, another cat, Spongy, didn't like that cat. Okay, I could tell right away, just didn't like it. My husband and I went to bed early in the morning. I ran down, and the cat that didn't like the new one had bit the cat on the back. All right, horrible, horrible. So I took it right away to the vet, and they took the hair off, and there was this big lump and with a hole in it and everything. And he said, I'm sorry, Ruth, we're going to have to keep it overnight. He said, okay, just don't let it die, because it was just a little bitty kitten. So they kept it. I went back the next day, and he says, okay, Ruth, you can take it home as long as you give it the juice. You gotta put stuff in that hole. Oh, okay. So brought the cat home, put the stuff in it all day long. That night, sleep. Next morning, I said, no, it ran down, and the cat's eyes were all, but one eye, just, I thought,
Is this a true story?
This is a true story. Wait. So I took the cat back to the vet. I said, look what happened. It got its eye. He says, well, Ruth, you're going to have to continue doing that. You're going to have to put stuff in the eye. So, okay, I brought the cat home, and now I'm doing the stuff in the eye, and I think, this is horrible. Unfortunately, I am going to have to, hold on, folks, declaw that cat and keep that in the house forever, because I want all these cats. So I brought that cat to the hospital the next day. They declawed him, kept him for a couple days. I went to pick him up, and he had bandages on his front claws, you know what I mean, all wrapped up. So there he was. He kept, because at night I would close the kitchen door so that my cats could have full range of the kitchen, and the kitchen led to what I call the cat room, which was another bedroom and a bathroom. They really had a great deal. The only problem was in the morning I had to clean up that place like crazy, because the Himalayan, I mean, it was just, but that's okay. That's what I chose to do. So I come down one morning, and there this poor cat that was declawed was jumping off the counter, and he didn't, and the other walking around, the other cat's walking around like this, and the hump in the back, and oh my goodness. At the end of that day, I was into Weight Watchers way back then, and I decided to make, after my husband and I had dinner, I decided to make Weight Watcher sauce, so that I remained in the kitchen with the kitchen door closed. So I'm sitting there watching television. We had just eaten, so I took all the dishes and I put them in the dishwasher, and I'm staying there to mix the sauce while the cat's, jumping off the counter and everything. And I'm sitting there watching Dick Dawson on television. He was on a game show, and I hear, meow. And I keep watching. I'm thinking, why is that cat so far away? Because they're all in the kitchen here. I thought, what the heck is that? What? Why is it so far? And I hear a third time. I went over and I opened the dishwasher. There was nothing on top, and I yanked the thing out, and there was that poor cat with the eye and the thing. He had gone through he had cascade all over him. Do you realize if it wasn't for Weight Watchers, I would have gone upstairs to bed with the husband that, thank God, I'm divorced from. And my cat would have been, the next morning, he would have been dead.
I have a cat in a freezer.
That's my cat story.
This was Glen Cat.
Who was it the other day? Now wait.
That story just knocked you out.
Who was it the other day at when we were doing the Biltmore? Wait a minute.
Anything for a laugh, Ruth.
When- when we were doing
I mean, it was long. Was it worth it?
Yeah, we know that what the chair was.
I was doing
But
closed
who was it
captioning.
that said? Was it Frankie? Was it you? When all the women were going in different directions, and you said trying to keep women together is trying to herd cats.
I didn't say that. But
You
Ruth's house sounds like the best little cat house in California.
Well, I gotta tell
It's
you,
just a little bitty pissant country place. Ain't nothing too hot.
my cat Luella. I have a cat. She is in the freezer. I have this great big chest freezer, and when she died, I didn't want to bury her. And I said, well, I'll do it tomorrow. So I put her in the freezer. She's been there for 30 years.
Is that true?
She is still
Next to
there.
the pork chops or something?
Way in the
No, next to the
permafrost.
fish.
Wait, no, under the permafrost. And
You
when I
sure your
moved-
name's not Norman Bates?
I wish it were.
Put her in the rocker.
But no, this is no kidding. I'm going to be moving from Hollywood to Mexico, and I'm going to have to defrost it. And, well, the last time I looked at her, about 30 years ago, she still looked really good.
No, put her in one of those little blue things with ice around her. Carry her, don't
Maybe
defrost
that's a
her.
good idea.
Yeah.
Dry ice, but maybe they'll come up with some invention, bring her back to
Cryogenics.
life, But I mean, these things go on. Okay, it's a year, 2 years, whatever, and then you say, why? Well, she's okay there, And it's one of these big old freezers built back in the 30s that never gives up. The little light bulbs are still on from, anyway.
Annie, do you have something to say
Cats.
about pets?
Anybody want to sing something for cats?
Cats and dogs.
I have a dog, and I have a cat, and I have a guinea pig, and they're not in the freezer. They're all alive.
Bitch.
They are dead. Are they still dead?
Good thing it's not Sunday.
Still dead,
My dog is an English setter, and her father was actually a champion. She's a hunting dog. She's a bird dog. And I had her for a year, and then I sent her back to Texas, which is where she's from, to get trained to hunt birds. And I had a temporary visitor during the summer. I had a creature who, my history is I've had a lot of strays in my life that have come into my yard, and this one takes the
Just
cake.
animals?
Yeah, well, we won't go there, okay? A lot of strays in my life, honey. I was in the middle of, this past summer, I did 2 shows in rep. I did Julius Caesar and I did 12th Night in rep, and I was rehearsing both of them simultaneously, and I raced home to pick something up from the house to get back. I'd finished Julius Caesar, and I was on my way back to 12th Night rehearsal, and I raced home, and I opened my gate, and I ran into my backyard, and there in my backyard was an emu. Now, you all know what an emu is. It's kind of like about a 6-foot prehistoric turkey.
Like an ostrich.
And I just kind of looked and went, there's an emu in my yard. It was a stray. Now, I live like by a little lake, and there's a golf course nearby. Like, none of my neighbors have emus, okay? It turns out that this thing, it took me days to find out where it came from. It had gotten loose about 8 miles over a mountain and wandered over a mountain into my backyard. The gate, my son had left the gate open and they thought, this looks good. So I found its owners subsequently and they said their fences were broken, and I said, look, I can keep them for a couple days, fix your fences, and come and get them. 6 weeks later, I hadn't heard from them, and I'd, of course, fallen in love with my prehistoric chicken. Elliot was what we named him. And finally, at the end of the summer, I said, please come and get Elliot. You know, my dog, who's been trained to hunt birds, is coming home, and I don't think this is what he's got in mind. He's gonna fall over when he sees this. He's been trained to hunt little quail, you know. And feeding it was interesting, because you can't just go buy emu food at PetSmart. You know, you gotta find zoo feed for it. But he would eat grapes out of my hand, and he was just a little doll. Elliot the emu. So that's my pet story.
I'll just throw one in real quick.
I want you to know, an emu, isn't that an ostrich with a bicuspid lisp? I'm an emu.
Did somebody turn my mic off? Oh, I have a one-eyed West Terrier, West Highland Terrier.
Where do you keep him?
She.
In the refrigerator.
My brother, the poor thing came totally matted black. My brother rescued it, called me, said, take the dog. She is the most brilliant, wonderful dog in the world, except she gets blindsided when she goes down. You throw a ball and she runs into a potted plant. But, you know, she's an incredible dog. I miss my dog.
You see what you started? It's your fault that we got onto our pets.
Okay, let's talk about, I know all three of these ladies do voiceover work, and I know cartoon voices. Let's start with Kathy, because I know, first explain what voiceover means.
Who, me? You can start with me. Well, do you all know what a voiceover is? What's a voiceover, Keith? Excellent. This is absolutely right. So you get another prize too. We have 2 prizes to give out, to you and to you. Okay, and that's exactly right. It's a voice over a picture. And as Keith says, it can be animation or commercials or even an audio book. The picture then is in your mind. And I started out, I played Firestar on Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and the Gecko Lady in The Amazing Spider-Man. Now, I actually liked Firestar because she has this beautiful lady with this great body, but now they have this Japanese anime, and I just did this character called Enya, and she is very ugly and wonderful. But that is just the great thing about doing voiceovers, because you, can be an alien with, 1 nose and 1 eye and 4 ears, and still wear jeans and a t-shirt and have lots of fun when you go to the recording studio to do it. So it really is a delightful field of the whole entertainment business.
And Robbie Benson has made.
Oh yeah, and Robbie Benson was, yeah.
Really.
And Ann, what about your voiceover work?
I have done a good deal of animation as well. I actually did some, I don't know if you remember this, but I did some Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Yeah, you were guest star in this series, yeah. I have them for you.
Do you?
Yeah,
God,
I'll give them to you.
she's got my whole...
I have her whole career on video.
I don't. My work is not, I haven't done as much animation as Kathy has. I do a lot more live action. I do a great deal of background looping. I work regularly on all 3 Law & Order series. I do West Wing, I do Dragnet, and I do a lot of features. And to explain what that is to you, like on Law & Order, when you see the scene that you're watching and the 2 principal detectives are discussing the crime on the streets of New York, and behind them is a, yellow crime scene tape, 6 black and white police cars, other policemen herding crowds and interviewing people. At the time that scene is actually shot, all those people are pantomiming and there is no sound. They're not making any noise so that they get a clear dialogue track of the 2 principals. After it's edited together, a group of 5 or 6 of us will go in, look at the picture on the screen, and pick up those background people. One of the things I do specifically is police dispatch calls, and you've probably heard my voice in maybe 200 feature films, and I don't know how many.
And what is this process called?
Looping.
Looping, and it's
And what-
now called
ADR.
ADR.
Automated dialogue replacement.
It used to be called looping because film was on loops.
A loop of film.
And a loop of film. And so when we got very sophisticated and technology took over,
It became automated dialogue
replacement, because you are replacing the dialogue. Also, besides the background people that Annie replaces, there might be one character and this fabulous, wonderful, sexy girl, and she talks like this. So you had to replace her voice with something a little bit more suitable.
How I started
Something that
working.
every actor has to learn how to do because
You have to replace yourself.
I don't know what, I had a scene running from Wide Country where I played the Amish boy, and we did all this exterior shooting, very dramatic work. Every damn line had to be looped, not dubbed, where you could see the picture itself, but just following this little line,
Yeah.
you know, and replay the entire dramatic performance.
Well, what I do when I
It's-
do this is mostly improvisational. I have to make it all up
Yeah.
on the spot. And when I'm doing like the police calls that come out of the cars, what you hear is 17 Mary 7 years of a robbery in progress at 38th and Main. See the man, you know. But I have to make it all up. But I have to know that if I'm doing Law and Order in New York City, I can't say there's a domestic disturbance at the corner of Santa Monica and Rodeo Drive.
Is
I
that
have to know
easier? Would that be easier than recreating a performance like you go and you spill your guts and you've done this great performance and then you have to recreate it without even seeing it? Would that be easier or?
I don't think it's easier. It's all the same. And an actor can perform when he's called to,
Yeah.
whether you're
Well,
looping
film
or
acting,
not.
I'll tell you, film acting is.
And I've
Frankie has a
Not like on the
question.
I have a question. What is it called when an actor or actress does not have the proper voice, which happened on the first Hercules? What was his name? The muscle
Steve
builder?
Reeves.
Steve Reeves. He had the squeakiest,
That's
ugliest
called
voice.
looping.
That's
You
looping
loop
also?
it.
Yeah, looping.
Okay,
Yeah,
because I didn't know.
replacement.
dialogue replacement.
ADR.
Okay, thank you.
And the other thing I was going to
Next
say
game.
is, aside from doing the cops and all that stuff, I've also done some other really kind of weird stuff. I was a predator in Predator 2. But
What does a predator sound like?
a lot of growling. But the weirdest one I ever did, and I had to actually audition for this part. Did any of you see a movie called Project X with Matthew Broderick and a bunch of chimpanzees? There is not a natural monkey noise in it. It's me and four guys. And I had to audition for this. I had to get a tape of Jane Goodall's vocalizations of wild chimpanzees so I would know what noises they made when they were happy or hungry or agitated. And I was 6 months pregnant. I had to go to Fox and look at the screen in front of a mic, and the entire editorial department and the producers stood there while I stood there and looked at the screen and went, years as a trained actress to be hired to be a monkey,
But a good monkey.
a good monkey.
I auditioned to do the voice of the heretic, which is going from the Ten Commandments to the voice of the demon and the devil. And I started it out with this incredible scream. I haven't frightened you, have I? You know, this very sweet, nice face with this incredible, I felt like Linda Blair, reincarnated. Okay, Ruth.
And Ruth, you do a lot of voiceover work in
I'm
cartoons.
just being very quiet here because I've done voiceovers from way back before laughing and all that, all the way through. For cartoon series, movies, everything, radio commercials.
Pick up your
One
mic,
that's kind
Ruth.
of interesting. One that's kind of interesting was I was at somebody's birthday party, and it was a little girl, and I wanted to make her laugh, and I sang Happy Birthday in a way that I do. It's real off-key and operatic, you know what I'm saying? And I went home, and about 2 weeks later, the grandfather of that girl that was there, his name was Ward Kimball. Do you know Ward Kimball?
He was a wonderful writer at Disney Studios. And he said, Ruth, I have written a wonderful cartoon series. It's called It's Tough to Be a Bird, which, by the way, got an Academy Award. He said, in the middle of that, there's a true segment. It was about the evolution of the bird. And in the middle of that, he said, it turns into live action, where we go to Hinckley Ridge, Ohio, where every year the buzzards return to Hinckley Ridge, Ohio, and people come in throngs just like they do in Capistrano for the swallows to return to Capistrano. And he said, so I've got that in the film. And he said, while that's being shown, I want it to sound, I want a woman, and I'd like you to do it because I think you can, to sing a song like you're in a church and you're bad, you're off key. Okay, a bad lady singing this song that's a wonderful, funny song that I've written while the buzzards are returning. You know what I'm saying? And I went to the screening of it, and it got a hand after. It was so exciting. And I'll just do just a little of the beginning. It was something like this. When the buzzards return to Hinckley Ridge, all the hearts are young and good. Oh, its wings out spread, they circle over that kind of a thing.
Bravo.
Bill gets a hand.
Bravo.
That brings to mind. Can I just say something?
Okay, David.
It brings to mind that I was in an Academy Award-winning short subject by Orson Welles. It just came to me. I did a voice in it, and it won an Academy Award. And I got $100. That's enough.
These are all good memories.
175, I think.
What was it called?
The Voice of the People.
Oh, okay.
It won the Academy Award in, I don't know, 78 or something like that. Look it up.
All right, it's time for us to go, but we're going to sing Happy Birthday to Sue Gossett and my friend Bill Sasser over there. So, you ready? Sue and Bill.
Sue and Bill.
Sue and Bill. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sue and Bill. Happy birthday to you.
Okay, happy birthday. Thank you, David Macklin, Ann Lockhart, Kathy Garver, Frankie Ford, Ruth Buzzi. Thank you so much. We'll see you next year.